Every 4 years, the biggest sporting event in the world is held, the FIFA World Cup. Hundreds of millions of fans from across the world gather to watch as the best players from their countries compete on the biggest world stage for the World Cup. Soccer, internationally known as football, is the biggest sport in the world, and as a matter of fact, according to FIFA, the 2018 World Cup amassed a total of over 3 billion viewers. As a Brazilian myself, this hits pretty close to home for me, as soccer is an important part of my family's culture, so I was quite enthusiastic to learn about its history throughout my research. And I'm sure most of you as Americans have seen just how dedicated and passionate the fans are from other countries about soccer. And when you take a look at its rich history, it'll become clear why that's the case. My name is Fabricio Cardoso, and today I will be telling you about the humble beginnings of soccer as a sport, its rise to international popularity, and finally, the importance of the World Cup in the 1900s and its impact on modern soccer. But in order to understand the history of soccer, we'll have to go back to its origins in England. Now, the first traces of soccer span back as far as 4,000 years ago in China, and other traces in different countries, such as Japan, some in Africa, and more notably in Rome. However, in England, England was the first place that soccer would be more than just a game and would be developed into a more competitive sport. Football was played in villages and schools in the early 1800s, and in 1843, Cambridge University would attempt to create the first official set of rules, but it didn't go through. Only in 1863, when the Football Association, or FA, was formed, was there an official set of rules. With the formation of the FA, professional teams began to rise in England, and some in Scotland as well around this time. Sheffield United is credited as being the first official soccer club, formed in 1857, where people that played in schools wanted to play in a more competitive setting, and Nottingham Forest was also one of the first more notable official professional clubs. Buenos Aires FC in Argentina was also formed around this time by British workers working in Argentina. And in Luzerne, Switzerland, FC Luzerne was the first non-English professional team formed in 1901. So now that soccer began to develop as more of a professional sport, it wouldn't be long before other countries outside of England would begin to take part in this. The first international matches was held between England and Scotland in 1872, and shortly after that, Uruguay and Argentina would play against each other as well. However, these were only friendly matches, and there was no actual competition being held. Only in 1900 did soccer become a part of the Olympics. However, in 1900 and 1904, it was only played as a demonstration sport rather than an official sport. Only in 1908 did soccer become an officially recognized sport in the Olympics. So for the next 20 years, the Olympics would be the biggest international stage for soccer at that time. However, in 1908 and 1909, in Turin, Italy, there was an attempt to hold a national professional soccer club competition, and although it didn't quite gain the same traction that the Olympics did, it would eventually lead to one of the biggest soccer tournaments in the world in Europe, known as the UEFA Champions League. During the 1920s, soccer had quickly become one of the biggest sports in the Olympics. And with the newly formed Federación Internacional de Football, better known as FIFA, they decided it was time for soccer to have its own official competition, the World Cup. And thus, in 1930, the first World Cup was held in Uruguay. However, little did they know just how much of an impact this new international competition would have on the world and the world of soccer. In just a few decades, the World Cup will become one of the biggest competitions for sports in the entire world and a major source of national pride for many countries across the world. Brazil, in particular, generally known as the best soccer playing country, has amassed a total of an impressive 5 World Cup trophies over the years, which is the most out of any country to this day. This is largely thanks to Pelé, debatably one of the greatest soccer players of all time. At only the age of 17, Pelé led Brazil to the first World Cup victory in 1958 and the second one in 1962. He's also the only player in history to win 3 World Cups by himself. Now, although he has an impressive track record, definitely worthy of one of the greatest, what makes him so good as a player and so notable was his influence on the sport, which came from his masterful dribbling and the way he controlled the ball. He played the game with a passion that wasn't found anywhere else in the world. And the way he played, he made soccer seem like not just a sport, but rather an art. And you could tell his talents were deeply rooted in his culture, and he played with a passion like no other. Now, and we see that each of Brazil's World Cup shows that soccer, it isn't just a sport for them. It's an art, and it's deeply engraved in their culture. So many phenomenal players have come from Brazil, such as Pelé, Ronaldo Nazario, Neymar, and Ronaldinho, just to name a few. Now, another notable country is Argentina, which has won 2 World Cups. Argentina is known not only for their international play, but more so for the incredible players that have come from Argentina, more notably Maradona and Lionel Messi. By the 1970s, international competition was dominated by Brazil and more recently Germany, but a player by the name of Maradona quickly gained notoriety by leading Argentina to their first World Cup victory in 1978 and the second in 1986. His control with the ball on his feet and his ability to breeze past defenders made him a spectacle to behold on the pitch. However, his talents were not without controversy. In 1986, in the quarterfinal against England, he scored one of the most notorious goals in all of soccer, known as the Hand of God. The English referee mistakenly thought that he hit the ball with his head, when in actuality, he fisted it with his hand. This would cause much controversy for decades to come. And also, not to mention that in the 1994 World Cup, he was expelled for testing positive for the drug ephedrine, and later expelled from professional club play for possession of cocaine. And finally, we take a look at Germany, which is known for their more technical style of play. The Germans have always stood out from the other countries as the other flashier countries, and their players focusing more so on team coordination and efficiency rather than putting on a show. With an impressive four World Cups, thanks to their technical style of play and the good leadership of incredible players such as Franz Beckenbauer and Lothar Matthaus as the team captain, they've been able to make themselves one of the greatest forces to be reckoned with in international soccer. Franz Beckenbauer, who was previously mentioned, is debated as one of the greatest defenders of all time. Not only did he have incredible defensive capability, but it was also his ability to keep the team together, which is what led to Germany winning the World Cup in 1974, and again in 1990, thanks to Beckenbauer being the team manager. So now that we've taken a dive into the rich history of soccer, let's recap. So today we talked about the beginnings of soccer as a sport, how it rose to international popularity, and finally the fierce competition among the best in the world through the World Cup. When you take a look at the game's vast history, we can see why soccer is the most popular sport in the world and why so many people are passionate about it. So whenever the World Cup rolls around and you see people across the world gathering and by the billions to watch, think about its history that led it to where it is today. Thank you.